Hello and welcome to your new favorite paranormal podcast. I am your host, Kevin Leonard. With me, as always, my paranormal partner in crime, Corey Beam, and this is Into the Paranormal. How you doing, Corey?
I'm doing very well. Definitely happy to be recording. It has been quite some time, but Cap has been busy in the meantime, and got a lot to talk about. We've missed a little bit, so looking forward to today's podcast and having a good time.
Yep, sounds good. And as we always do, we like to start these off with a little bit of paranormal news, some updates about what we've got going on, and get into the topic. Today's topic, we're going to be going back to a previous episode where we talked about paranormal equipment, what type of equipment we like to use, what type of equipment maybe you should use, what we think about it. Last time we talked about EMF readers, the whole world of EMF, EVP recorders, your digital voice recorders, and the like. Today, we're going to be going into the visual side of things. But before we do that, let's jump into some paranormal news. So, Corey, you want to start off with a really good news topic that's popular right now, that's trending, if you will?
Yeah, absolutely. Probably the biggest one I think right now that's trending is Jason Hawes releasing a video on his YouTube in response to another YouTuber named Beardo, kind of talking about certain things about ghost hunters, taps, a few things that Beardo thought looked quite suspicious. And Jason also goes into the whole Jason Grant relationship and what happened, which I found fascinating. Now, if you're a paranormal insider like we are, it's kind of the whole Jason and Grant situation was what we thought it was. Same thing that we had actually heard. But he also goes into the nefarious jacket tug from the Ghost Hunters Live episode at Fort Delaware on Peapatch Island. So, I know Kevin had watched it as well. It was quite fascinating. I subscribed to Jason's YouTube just to see what he had to say because these are things we've all, as ghost hunters, was the reason I got into the field. I started watching it and was shocked that I could actually do these kinds of things. Um, it's fascinating to see what happened, and it, he doesn't talk negatively in any way when it comes to Grant. Talks about how as the two leaders of Taps and of Ghost Hunters, they were together filming the show. They were together beforehand for years, working, and then they were traveling the circuit doing different conventions as well. So they were always around each other. And for years of that, you can start to wear on each other. And that's kind of what happened. We did hear that when the Ghost Hunters reboot was offered, it was offered to Jason Grant and a few other the team members. Uh, Grant said no, and apparently then they said, "Well, Jason, do you want to do it with a whole new team?" And Jason said no, which is what we had heard. And that's how you got that Ghost Nation show with Steve and Tango and Jason and Sharon Bedetti. I can never get her last name right. So I'm not even going to try. But that's kind of how
Sharon
that
Devendetti.
happened. I think it's De Benedetti. I think I just said it right. But yeah. So he goes into how they had heard through the grapevine that Grant was doing the reboot Ghost Hunters with a new team. He never talked to anyone about it, and that's kind of where some of the blad, the blad
The
bud,
Black Blood.
the bad blood, if you want to call it that, started between them. And you know, understandable. I'm sure Grant had his reasons of doing it. and Jason, and I can see why maybe they would be upset. So it's, I respect both of them for who they are as individuals. It's neat to hear, him speak on it because it's not something he had spoken of in the past, but he did. He also, that jacket pull, um, seeing him be very truthful and not being able to say, oh, yeah, that's definitely not fake. He didn't say that. He said, I can see where people have questioned this.
Yeah.
And I thought that was interesting for him to come out and say that about his own um, the thing he was on, because he could have just come out and said, "Oh, this is definitely real. You how could you?" But he was very, I think, sincere and honest about things that were talked about that Beardo had talked about, and honest about too that I think Beardo had talked about how they didn't debunk as much, and he's like, "Well, we do debunk just as much. It's just it doesn't make it as much into the episode as it used to."
Right.
Um, which comes down to the network gets what it wants kind of thing that we've talked about before. Um,
Good old
so I found it
networks.
fascinating. I yeah, those people. But that was, interesting to talk not to talk about it, but to see um his viewpoint on some things. I think it helped
Yeah.
just clear the air a bit, which was good. And I know it was a pretty popular. Still is. The video still growing in views. So yeah, Kevin, I know you have a pretty interesting one. Now this is the big one that we missed, and weirdly not in the news, or maybe not weirdly, not in the news
Uh,
as much as it should have been.
yeah. Well, this actually came out sometime last year, but apparently we found or the scientists believe they found the city of Atlantis. Um, so I have pulled up here the Suffolk Voice, and it says Atlantis, the Eye of the Sahara. This was actually published January 24th, 2023, but I'm just now hearing about it. So I thought it was pretty interesting. I'm going to read a little bit of a snippet here of the article, and I'll put the links in the show notes. But says here, everyone knows, or everybody knows the name Atlantis, the story of a civilization lost to time, sunken beneath the waves. Personally, I can't read today. Personally, the first thought that comes to mind when thinking of Atlantis would be an island somewhere in the Atlantic, probably now home to a couple of fish. The concept of Atlantis seems so far-fetched that it's easy to write off as just a story. However, what if I told you our government already knows the whereabouts of Atlantis? What if it's not as lost as we think? Well, recent scientific discoveries continue to deepen our understanding of a geographic history, and which in turn helps construct an argument for the reality of Atlantis. Um, so it says here basically that they believe that Atlantis is under the Sahara Desert, where, as we know, the Sahara prehistory was a vast ocean. So, somewhere beneath the sands in the Sahara Desert lies ruins of what once was the lost city of Atlantis. I think that's pretty interesting. And the government knows about it, so it kind of ties into some government conspiracy theories. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, like I've always wondered about that lost city. I mean, you hear it talked about in some ancient scriptures and texts, and um, you feel like there had to be some truth to it. I mean, talked about so much. It's hard to imagine that it not existing in some capacity. and that would make sense. It being on that side of the world,
Yeah.
um, close to where these philosophers that talked about it would be. So makes sense to me. Um, be fantastic if that's where it was. Truthfully, I couldn't think of any better uh, possibility. That'd be a neat thing to uncover. But but yeah, yeah, fantastic, fantastic.
Yeah.
Now that we um I do want to shout out a few things as we've gone over some news stories. One, a few days ago, as we're recording this, we had a fantastic library presentation at New Smyrna Beach Regional Library on the 25th of January. Uh, Absolutely fantastic turnout, more than we could have ever hoped for.
While you're, let me cut you off really for a second. While you're doing that, let me do something really quick because I notice I'm still lagging and I know what it is. Hold on. So go ahead and shout out the library, talk about the presentation, and I will be right back.
Okay, we'll do so. But yeah, the library, we had such a great time doing that, and shout out to all them and Sean and everyone that had us and came out. It's really interesting when we go to different places and we see the people that come out to hear us, talk and have questions for us. It's always a very varied crowd, and we never really know what to expect. But it's everyone that we've done has absolutely been fantastic. So I mean, yeah, New Smyrna, thank you so much for having us. We hope you'll have us back sometime. We'd love to come out anytime you'll have us. And it was just a very fun time. Again, the Volusia County Library System, Deltona, New Smyrna, and then Camden County up in Georgia has been absolutely fantastic. And feel like we couldn't be happier with everything library wise and event wise that we've done so far. And we're not that far from another one. March 16th, 10 a.m. We will be back at Deltona, the Deltona Regional Library, um, doing a presentation on the how and why, and how those answers still kind of stay out of our reach. So that'll be a fantastic presentation for us to do, and we're really looking forward to that as well. So that'll be a great time. We also have other things that are happening in the works. We'll talk more about those uh, as they come about. Some stuff in April that very well could be happening. At least one thing, possibly another. We'll see. Even up to October, we have possibly something as well, and you never know what might come up. So a lot of things happening, and of course, as we sit here and talk, we are less than a week from the Coastal Atlantic Paranormal Association going back to the battleship North Carolina. That is just a private investigation that Kappa is conducting on the ship, so it is not public or open to anybody. But I promise, um, follow us, follow Kappa, follow Into the Paranormal. We will absolutely be talking about that, and any experiences and every evidence we find will be brought up. We probably won't shut up about it. I guarantee that. So really looking forward to that. Kevin, how's everything on your end over there, bud?
Yeah. So I'm experiencing some technical difficulties with the camera and the Zoom here. But everything's good other than that.
Well, that's good. I mean, that's a
Yeah.
really important piece of this puzzle.
Hmm.
but but we will make it work. We always do. And as you said earlier, we're going to talk about something that we talked about a while ago. And before that, you know what I didn't even mention to say? This is episode 21. If our podcast was a person, they would be getting hammered right now. They could drink. They are an adult. All that good stuff. So,
It has
yay for
matured.
it has. The podcast itself isn't as mature, but it is what it is. So that's great. I was talking about something before I interrupted myself, but yes, a few episodes back, I think it's episode 12. We talked about the different types of equipment. We went through some EMF, voice recorders, stuff like that that we talked about, Spirit Box, and I kind of teased and said we would talk about the piece of equipment that I hate the most. We'll see what it is. So we're going to talk about all the different visual aids that we'll use in investigation on this episode. Everything from regular handheld cameras to our DVR system to SLS devices and thermals and why we use them. And do we think, how important do we think they are to the field? I've been talking a lot.
It's
Um,
about time because usually I talk a lot. So it's about time
I,
you speak up. I kind of like just sitting here nodding.
yeah, there are some episodes where he'll go on a tangent, and I'm just like, "Yep, I agree." But um,
Talk.
yeah, well, I'm going to start off because I don't want, without further ado, I'm going to tell you the device that I can't stand. It is a device that Kappa has. Um, I'm not against Cat. I've never been against Kappa using it at all because you never know, and I'm 100% open-minded. But I hate that stupid. Oh, I'm being real bad, been real mean towards it. But I'm not a big fan of that SLS camera. Um,
Why?
Never happened. I don't know. I think there's just too. I don't. There's too much unknown. I can't. There's nothing scientific behind. I mean, there is when you're a person's in front of it, and I get it's mapping them out. I just think the possibility of false positives are just so high that
Well, it is, but when a manner of how we conduct investigations, and I'm sure other teams conduct investigations in the same manner, we always rule out possibilities. If it
right,
could have been, it might as well have been. That's what I teach everyone that's on the team. Um, so with that being said, with the SLS, it does get a lot of false positives. It does try to map out door frames as a person, chair leggings, dressers, whatever, depending on where you are. If we're using it in an old jail, the jail cells that have the bars, it'll try to map those out as people. And if you go in just looking for evidence, you're going to find evidence no matter where you point the thing. But so that's where I'm curious as to, I want to hear like why though, like why do you hate it? Why is it stupid?
I just
I mean,
it's
because
an Xbox camera.
yeah, I
The
mean,
false
yeah, it's an X.
positive.
Sorry, yeah, because like it's an
Like,
Xbox camera, right? But a lot of the tools that every team uses, even the
mhm,
ones that are massively respected, your taps, Ghost Adventures, Destination Fear, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
right,
Um, they use equipment, most of all paranormal equipment. It started and still is equipment used for other things. The intended purpose of a K2 meter is not to pick up electromagnetic frequencies that are uh, could be possibly manipulated by spirits. It's an electrician tool. So an Xbox
right,
camera is just that. It's a
right,
camera and it sends out the structured light sensors to pick up uh, humanoid figures or whatnot. So when using it the correct way, which again, it's experimental. Every piece of equipment that is used, I'm not even gonna say that we use, that is used in an investigation should be experimental. It's an experiment because we don't have all the answers. We don't, everything is a theory in the paranormal field. So I do agree that if you're walking around because you see people on TV walking around with an SLS. They're just asking for false positives. And I've seen the shows where clearly it's mapping a lamp, like a tall lamp or something, or a door frame, whatever, and they're passing it along to the viewer as, oh, that's a ghost and it's doing such and such. When in reality, it's just the arms might be moving because it's trying to find the arm of whatever the body part that it's mapping. So it's just kind of reaching its arm out, and you see it, oh, it's reaching into your head, Aaron. It's not. It's just freaking out trying to find the person that it thinks that it's finding. But sorry, I went on my tangent. So yeah,
No,
continue.
I mean, I just feel like something that gives that many false positives. I mean, you could say the
It
K2
could.
gives false positives.
Your
Anything can give a
someone's
false
cell phone
positive.
rings several feet away. It's gonna light up like a Christmas tree.
Right. And
And not even the cell phone
it
rings. If
just
it sends and receives a signal, which cell
right.
phones
It's
constantly send and receive data every second.
well we
It sends the K2, and I've seen investigators that will have a K2 in their hand, and they're like, "Oh my God, it's going off! It's going off!" Like, no, it's because you have your cell phone in your pocket, dude.
yeah, and I think something also,
So with
um
the SLS, I feel like you can still hold it, but if it's stationary and you get responses almost on command. I'll give an example. When we were at the Tracy and I were at the Chowan County Jail, uh, we were using the SLS and we were in one of the holding areas, and um, we saw it looked like a figure popped up, and then initially we thought it was trying to map the cells, the bars on the cell. So we were ruling it
right,
out, but we were like, okay, why it looked like a person was sitting on this bench. Um, so we saw it and we're like, okay, let's find out what this is. And we said, hey, we're about to leave now. Can you wave goodbye to us? And it goes like this. Hand goes up. It didn't like freak out to try to map like they do. It kind of up and went left, right, two or three times, and then the entire figure just disappears. That kind of like, okay, maybe there's something to this, because I understand, and I'm not trying to like be argumentative, but it's things like that. Like I won't like die on the SLS hill or anything, because there is a far too many false positives than there are actual positives. So I can
right,
understand your side of the road there, but it's just when you have to know how to use the equipment, or have an idea, because again, everything we do is in theory. Is there a right or wrong way? I can't say yes or no. I'm of the belief that you shouldn't walk around with an SLS or an XLS looking for these anomalies, because as you're panning, the camera can't stay focused, and it's already an SLS, a structured light sensor camera, so it's sending those laser grids in so many directions, and it's going to find, it can't necessarily focus on anything. But if it's stationary in one spot, has time to read the room, register where everything is, what everything is, and then if it gets something on command, I think that's a little bit more weighted. It might not be substantial or like definitive proof of what you're looking for, but I do think it's got a little bit more weight than if you walk into a room and you're just, dancing a jig, and all of a sudden you see 47 spirits or stick figures or whatever pop up in front of you. It Something like that. Or on a looking at a stage and people are bouncing around, dancing, playing a song.
I I've only ever seen that once, and it was on a TV show,
Yeah,
so
me too.
I
That's what I
don't.
was referring.
Yeah, I think yeah, pretty sure that's what you were getting at. I I don't know. It's just think that's a just a piece of equipment I hold absolutely zero, and that's just my opinion. We have different, and we've always said, and we said this, I think, at our last library presentation. We all have slightly different opinions on equipment, um, which is okay.
Yeah,
Um, you
differing
know,
opinions are good because if everyone thought exactly alike, then you're not really questioning anything. You're not really getting any answers. You're not looking for any new ground to break. You're just you become complacent.
right? And you got me that'll probably say just about anything on the camera is on at least the SLS is a bunch of horse hockey. But then you'll have you that might try to say, oh, this is why this is this
I
could
can
be
create an
something,
argument for it.
and I can correct the one against it, and maybe we can meet in the middle. Like that helps. At least in my book, I think it does. But I think I've said enough about the good old structured light sensor device camera. That is the one that the most that I don't like, but that's okay. Now let's go on to one that we also have here at Kappa, and one that I think is one of my favorites. So we're gonna switch it up a bit, and that's a good old thermal camera. I think they're important, and they're not just important for finding evidence. They're important for a lot of other reasons. They truthfully help. Um, you know, you could see um, maybe we'll start with this. Oh, you have a cold spot, and oh, there's a cold spot here, and you can basically map it out. You can see the shape of the cold spot, and then you can possibly lead and see where it's coming from. That's fantastic. Um, just putting your hand and going, oh, it's cold. That's great. It's feeling a cold spot's great. But mapping it, seeing it, being able to trace it maybe to a window, a draft, that's just as important. And who knows, maybe you're sticking your hand right into the underbelly of a big old ghost. Um, at that, right into a ghost there, and then you're like, oh, and then you can see it on camera, and you're just in and out of that ghost, and you're like, that's a ghost, and then you got evidence
Yeah,
of
Corey going in
you
and out
know,
of ghosts.
yeah, that's me. Anyway, I like I I happen to that's the thermal's great because it can help prove and debunk. And even though you can get false positives, you got to look for reflections. Heat reflects off of a lot of surfaces that you might not even think it reflects off of. Um, you can you can go back and look and check and debunk things if you find something. Um, to check if it's reflection, to check if it's something else. Um, and yeah, I feel like it's a very powerful tool in the toolbox. And now with the way you can get the little mobile FLIRs that go on phones, which a lot of people are using now in place of the um larger cameras, they're more accessible to your average team as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. How do you feel about that?
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say thermal is my favorite piece of video equipment, but I like thermals. I like our thermal. It gets the job done. I can agree with your argument for it.
You
I
also
like
may,
any tool that helps with debunking.
yes, yeah. We talk about how important debunking is in the field, and yeah, any tool that helps, like that one, is important.
Yeah.
Um, and he's kind of testy about this subject right now because we had a little fight about our thermal, but I just pumped it up
No,
a
we
bit on the
didn't.
podcast. We did. We had a
We
tiff.
didn't.
We had a tiff. Um, I said something about a real thermal, and Kevin just was not having that at all. No, and he made a good point. I said real thermal. The thermal that we have, that one, it's a real thermal camera. It's a FLIR, um, and it does a great. It has a very good um, quality to it. So I like that those are now accessible to people, um, more so than those used to be. So definitely good. Kevin, you want to talk about some? What's your favorite? You got a favorite
My
piece of
favorite is
video?
just the good old traditional uh handycam with a night shot. They're mobile. You can put them up anywhere with the handy cams or the camcorders. They have built-in audio, or you can attach an audio device to it to enhance the audio. If you're down a hallway and you need to capture this entire hallway, you just throw it there on a tripod, hook an external battery to it, and let it run for hours, depending on your memory space. Um, if you can walk around and need to walk around with it, you can walk around with it. They're mobile. I mean, they're all around the best video tool to me. Secondary would be the GoPro. I mean, you can attach it to a shoulder cam, hat, your chest. Um, the one that we have, or the one that I usually carry around with me, it's modified to its full spectrum infrared, um, and it captures has a tremendous video quality, has built-in sound. Um, Internal memory uses an SD card, and that's my secondary favorite. That's my two favorite uh,
Um,
pieces of video equipment. My least favorite is actually the DVR. It's just you have to set it up, uh, and it's a pain to go through when reviewing evidence. But
yeah, yeah. I
but
I
it's
like the
video,
DVR,
so
but
I mean it's good for what it is, and it has what you can get with various hard drives. So the space on it is infinite, really, if you keep up with it. Just store your memory on an external hard drive and clean it out. It'll keep going forever.
DVR is great. Setting up DVR, um, especially the hardwired ones, it's a pain.
Hmm.
It's a pain because you have to have with some of them. It depends on one. I've noticed that for some reason some of our cameras are slightly different. Some can hook into the power source on the DVR, some can't. Not sure exactly why that is. Um, but it's a lot of them you have to have a power source near the camera. A lot of places where you want to put the camera won't have a power source. And you just get more wires, and I hate wires. Um,
Yeah, we have PTSD when it comes to wires.
oh my gosh, I I will never forget that specific day. That's private investigation. What about 7 years ago? Where half the
Wow.
investigation was spent untangling wires,
No,
and
that was about 10 years ago now.
been a long time. Oh
Yeah, that
my
was
gosh,
2012. So 11 years.
wires are awful. I mean, uh, but I feel like even if say you were to go with these new, well, I wouldn't say new, they've had them out forever, a wireless DVR, then you get a bunch of other problems. You end up maybe not having good connection. I mean, we talk about the going to the battleship, uh, where you couldn't get signal. I wouldn't, they wouldn't work there. Um, so, and that's one thing where I do agree with you about those handy cams. They come in clutch because
Hmm.
we will be able to set those um, in active places and lock them off and not have to worry. And that's great. It's better than having to take 10 foot. Yeah, I wish hundreds of feet of cords wherever. And even though we got those little whirly things to put the wires on, it never seems to be easy. Somehow they still end up messed up.
Always.
It so yeah, DVR. It's
It's my least
great,
favorite.
but you can get the same effect with a locked off camera hooked up to a battery pack,
Yeah.
with a nice fresh SD card in it, and just let it run. And then you have the added benefit of some audio where
Yep.
you don't have that with DVR.
Well, you can have it, and you just have to connect the audio adapters to the DVR. Yes, our current one doesn't have audio.
But those are the main visual ones that we use. Um, people will still use digital cameras, full spectrum cameras. We have, that they're still used. We have a Polaroid. I think every time we talk about it at a library, it gets a chuckle.
Yeah.
Um, but it works
Polaroids are
well.
fun to use.
Hey, I think that's why we have it. Um, I don't think we've ever caught anything using it, but you never know. Um, just another tool in the toolbox. Uh,
Yeah.
definitely doesn't hurt
Yeah.
to have.
And the digital full spectrum camera. I like
Yep.
that because for the same reason for the GoPro, I mean, other than being video, it has digital still pictures. You can just snap them in quick instances, and it picks up light in every spectrum of light. And certain pictures you might have a shadow, mist, black mass, whatever the case may be. And then if you snap a picture a half a second or a second later, could be nothing in this picture, black mass, nothing. And I think that's compelling, that's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Yeah.
I mean, you can
Absolutely.
definitely
Uh,
catch the same thing with any camera, but I think the being able to take pictures in every spectrum of light is definitely worth having.
yeah. No. Absolutely. Yeah. I do like it. I think they definitely have their place. Um, I don't think we've ever caught anything at this time on it that we would say is convincing, but it's just like the Polaroid and just like, I mean, we've also never caught a full body apparition on the GoPro
Well, the one time I didn't use it,
at one time.
you
Uh, I think the second you step on that ship, just lash the
know.
darn thing to you.
Yeah.
Don't go anywhere without it. Um, but yeah, yeah, those are the different kinds of things that we use visually to help us in our quest to prove and disprove paranormal, what we set out to do. You know what? We won't say prove or disprove. We go out there to find the truth, whatever the truth is, whether it be you know paranormal or not. That's what we're there to do.
Hmm.
That's what we'll continue to do through 2024. We have a lot going on. Some cool investigations coming. Um, I mean, we're just extremely lucky going into this year, and I can't wait to see everything that happens. Hopefully little more content on the Kappa side and some other ways too. So, we'll get started with, even though we're already almost a full month into this year, if you can believe that. Don't know how that's happened,
Yeah.
but it'll be good. And I will say, as always, these wonderful podcasts, you'll see it on my lovely new shirt here, by the way, the beautiful red and black. This podcast is brought to you by the Coastal Atlantic Paranormal Association. And as always, Kevin, could you tell us a little bit about Kappa?
Who is Kappa Paranormal? The Coastal Atlanta Paranormal Association is a paranormal research team who specializes in helping homeowners, business owners, or historical site owners uh, with their paranormal needs, paranormal problems. If you feel your home business location is uh, experiencing paranormal activity, just reach out to www.kapaparanormal.com and our awesome case manager will get back to you, have a quick interview with you, determine if it needs to have an investigation. Sometimes these instances can be resolved with just a phone call. Maybe you just need someone to talk to. We're always one click away. Or you can visit us on Facebook at facebook.com/Kappa Paranormal. And there's a bunch of us that have that will reach out to you and answer any paranormal questions that you may have. Um, as always, our services, our research, everything that we put into our investigations are free of charge. But you just go to www.kapaparanormal.com. Right on the homepage, there is a ton of information about the team. You can find information about each member. And there's also a request our help tab. You just click on that if you're needing assistance and go from there. There'll be information, more information. There's a ton of information on the site, and there will also be a help form. Fill it out, give us as much information that is pertaining to your case, and that will get sent to me. Then it will get sent to my case manager, and she will be in contact with you. Or there's also a Join the Kappa Family tab. Click on that if you are local to the Florida, Georgia area and you are interested in the paranormal, have always been wanting to join a paranormal team. Click on the Join the Kappa Family tab and submit an application. Again, more information and an application, and that will get sent directly to me, and I will reach out to you. You never know when we are recruiting, when we're looking for new members, but we are always accepting applications. Again, this is a 100% volunteer service that we do, so there is no monetary gain for joining Kappa or anything like that. So yeah, again, kappaparanormal.com. All your information is right there. And back to you, Corey.
Fantastic. And just no, thank you. Thank you so much. I will say if you we also you can check us, of course, Cap out and all those different areas. You can also check out Into the Paranormal, Into the Paranormal on Facebook. That's facebook.com/Into the Paranormal. We're also looking for stories to read at the end of an episode. So if you
Yes.
have any story, whether it be real, creepy pasta, we like to just read a good story. Who doesn't like a good tale? So you can also email us there at IntoTheParanormalPod@gmail.com. And we would love to hear you. And if you want to hang out with me over at my Facebook, that's facebook.com/Corey Beam.
Yeah, my camera just wigged out for a second for some reason. So you can find me all over the place if you just Google Kappa Paranormal. Uh, we're on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, etc., etc. And there's also links on the Kappa Paranormal site. I don't know if my voice is lagging, but as long as you can hear me, that's the important thing. Uh, Catch me on Facebook, facebook.com/Kevin Leonard. Follow. I post occasionally, but yeah, there it is. And as always,
Fantastic.
I have been
Yeah, well,
Kevin Leonard. Oh, you
it,
got something else?
no, no. As always, you've been Kevin Leonard. Go ahead.
That has been Corey Bean, and this has been a very laggy into the paranormal.